Good morning, sir. Always a pleasure. Thank you for letting me hang out with you and your members. All right, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to have some fun. We're going to be motivated, inspired, but most importantly, we are going to have some applicable items that we're going to take away from today, okay? So the very first thing that I must do is what I always do, and that is to give honor and respect where honor and respect are due. And that's going to be to our military veterans, active service personnel, first responders, and our reservists, right? So if you fall in any of those categories, I just want to say thank you for your bravery, your courage, for your sacrifice. I always keep my U.S. Navy Tervis tumbler with me. My father was a sailor. He was in the Navy. So I understand the sacrifices that are being made. Now, the second group of individuals that I want to show honor and respect to are going to be to the family members of the vets, active service personnel, reservists, first responders. We know that when your loved one is on deployment, when your loved one is out on their shift, that a big piece of your heart goes with them, and we do not take that for granted. So why are we here today? We're here because of this 5-letter word, until. Now, Devonna did ask the question. She said, hey, are there any handouts? So there are no handouts, but there are going to be resources and things that I'm going to share with you all that I would encourage you all to write down. Because here's what this is for today. This is for us who may have felt like, yeah, I'm done. It might be time for me to throw in the towel. Or it's for those of us who haven't reached that point yet, but we know that feeling is always on the horizon. And so until the art of perseverance is for those of us who are either in a position where we're looking around and saying, there's some really wild and crazy stuff going on, I might need to prepare, or you're right in the midst of it. So here's what this idea of perseverance is. I believe that before we really get into it, we have to know what we are thinking about, what our goal is, why we're here in this thing on this beautiful Tuesday morning. Perseverance, steady persistence in a course of action, a purpose, a state, especially during difficulties, obstacles, or discouragement. And I don't know what your life looks like. I don't know what your business looks like. I don't know what your relationships or your health looks like. What I can tell you is that it's very likely that you are having difficulties in some area of life, in business, in relationships. Maybe it's in your mental well-being, right? But especially during difficulties, obstacles, and discouragement. And here's where I want to begin. I want to start by telling you that if you are having difficulties in any area of your life, that you are not alone. So myself included, or Tony, or anyone at the association, those who might look the most put together, is very likely that what you don't see is we might be dealing with many of the same obstacles and challenges that you are. Now, here's what I want to tell you. I know the team there at Greater Tampa Realtors, they are some of the best in all of the world. Not the country, but the world. And here's what my plea is to you. If you are having challenges, if you're kind of feeling funky and you don't know what's going on, let someone know. Even if that's going to be at the association. They have a team of professionals here who want to make sure that you are set up to win. And winning means winning in life. So now that we know what this idea of perseverance is, the first thing that I want to ask you, because our time here together isn't going to be long, but hopefully it is going to be impactful. So the very first thing I want you to do or ask yourself is, do you have a purpose? Do you know clearly what your purpose is? Now, I know there are books written about it and the one thing and your ultimate goal and definiteness of purpose, but I'm asking you on this Tuesday morning, do you know what your purpose is? Because ultimately, if you are not keenly aware of what your purpose is, it's going to be easy to quit. It's going to be easier to give up, to throw in the towel. It's going to make persevering and going until more challenging. Because here's what, I almost forgot to mention this. And I want you all to see my face when I say this. So really quickly, let me ask you all this, or let me make this statement. Saturday, August 17th is an important day in our industry. Is everyone aware? Just in the chat, just a Y or an N, a Y or an N. Saturday, August 17th. Is everyone aware of why August 17th is such an important day in our real estate industry? Just a simple Y or an N will work. And in the chat, if you would put it to everyone and not just host and panelists. Okay, thank you so much, Devonna. So if you are not aware of why August 17th is such an important day, that's when all of the NAR settlement implications or effects, that's when the NAR settlement changes take effect. Saturday, August 17th. So your association, Greater Tampa Realtors, they're going to be training. They're going to have a lot of information rolling out. And so the reason I pause right now to say that is because in this time, there's a lot of uncertainty. Many of our colleagues, our friends, our peers, maybe even we have thought about getting out because we don't feel comfortable going until. And how long do we have to persevere, ladies and gentlemen? The answer is until. Until what? Until it gets better, until you reach your goal, until the transaction closes, until you've done everything that you're supposed to do. And unfortunately and fortunately, there is no end to the word until. So we just have to figure out how and why and what's going to keep us going. So really quickly, I'm going to share 2 books with you that I believe, if you're here, I believe they will help us in our journey in perseverance and doing maybe the right and challenging thing even during difficult times. The very first resource that I'm going to encourage you all to consider getting is the Entrepreneur Roller Coaster by Darren Hardy. So the Entrepreneur Roller Coaster. Now this is an older book, I will tell you, but a lot of the information, so 2015, so it's almost 10 years old. But if you have not gotten this book right here or haven't heard of Darren Hardy, I encourage you all to at least look into Darren Hardy, look at getting the Entrepreneur Roller Coaster. He is going to help us with that ebb and flow, with the up and down and the challenges that we're going to face on a daily basis as entrepreneurs, as small business owners, the things that typically would get others down. This book is going to remind us of why we are going to keep going, and it's going to give us some practical and applicable ways of how. So many times it's not the why as much as it is the how, because we hear it flipped. Well, how do I do this? How do I do that? No, let's focus on the why. Today we're going to focus on the how, because we know that we have to keep going. We know that there are reasons that we're doing things bigger than ourselves. The second one is going to be from Brian Buffini, The Immigrant Edge. And I love Brian Buffini. It talks about perseverance and things that he has had to overcome, as well as many immigrants have had to overcome, and they've still made it big here. So when I look at my circumstances, being born here in the U.S., having more resources available to me than Brian did when he got started, and to see where he is, it is encouraging to me. So Immigrant Edge and the Entrepreneur Roller Coaster are 2 resources that I would love for you all to consider looking at getting. Now, I don't get anything from those financially. I get something from them, meaning that I reread these books every quarter, and they are helping me in my life and in my business. So one more time, Saturday, August 17th is important to us as realtors, because that's when the NAR settlement changes take effect, and it's our job to know what the rule changes are, how we're going to operate. So I just want to encourage you all with that. There's still time for us to figure out, for us to create our businesses and our systems, get those things in place. So we hear this all the time, never give up. Now, Neil, when you say never, what do you mean? Like, do you mean not today or not tomorrow? Well, never means never, ladies and gentlemen. So I want to encourage you. One of the biggest challenges that we've seen just in the industry and in life is that as long as there is indecision is a greater threat to your success. Indecision is a greater obstacle to you being, doing, and having what you want to be, do, and have. Is more important, more challenging than procrastination. So the very thing I want you to do today is to go ahead and decide. Have that resolute decision that I am not going to give up ever. Okay, now, perception versus reality. This is where things can get dangerous if we are not careful. And so, what is the perception of real estate right now in your world? I'm not talking about in the world. I'm talking about what is your perception of real estate? What's your perception of how things are going? Do you think that this is the end of the industry? Do you think that your buyer or seller business is taking a nosedive? Because here's what we have learned. The reality is that your perception dictates the reality that you are going to experience. So oftentimes we see where right now on the screen, these arrows are going in opposite directions, where we think that perception is one thing and reality is something totally different. Well, I dare to differ. And here's where I want to challenge you and your thinking. What is your thought about what's happening in our industry right now? What is your thought about your health right now or the relationships that you have? Because here's what I know, ladies and gentlemen. I know that we don't operate inside of a bubble. I know that while you might be here with the Greater Tampa Realtors thinking it was all about real estate, we don't have the luxury of keeping all of our real estate issues here, having our family issues here, health concerns, any of that. And what we find is that many times our perceptions of reality are impacted financially because of health and relationship. Maybe it's simply fatigue. So as we go through the rest of this morning, start asking yourself, is your health suffering because of your perception of the real estate market? Is your real estate business suffering because of some challenges or perceptions that you have when it comes to your relationships? Because we know that everything that we do is related. So there are some obstacles ahead. And so here's what we are going to do. We're going to look at 7 obstacles. You might call them hurdles. Now, I'm willing to bet that when you got into the real estate industry, this was your idea of the industry. It was going to be challenging, yes. There were going to be hurdles, no doubt, but you were going to be able to overcome those hurdles while you're dressed in your business suit, right? You were going to be able to take everything that life and customers or clients and prospects threw at you. You were going to be able to endure a challenging colleague or cooperating agent and no sweat. You were going to be able to clear that obstacle of what? An ugly home inspection or your buyer going out and extending lines of credit prior to close. And we were going to make it look easy. Unfortunately, this is what our race looks like. Unfortunately, this was our perception, but this is our reality. And so even those gentlemen right here, when we're looking, not a single one of them has a look of confidence on their face. And so even this young man right here on the far left side of the screen with West, he has a look of torment and fear as he's approaching this next obstacle. And so here's where I want to pause for a moment. Is this how you are looking at this week? Is this how you are facing the upcoming month? Are you thinking about your buyer consultation or buyer business or your seller appointment that you have later this week with fears of or looks and worries of trepidation on your face? Because as long as this is the case, this is going to likely be the result. And here's where I don't know where your eyes go on the screen. It's very likely that it went to my guy right here who is fully on the ground. I'm not as concerned with the guy in red or the guy over here in blue. What hurts me and where I want to keep us from going this morning is right here, where we see a guy. This is the very first hurdle, ladies and gentlemen, where he didn't even take the first jump. He did not even try to clear the first hurdle, simply because very likely he saw others fall. So I want to tell you, as we look at these 7 challenges, there are going to be people that start the race with us. Maybe they got out to a lead. We are going to see them fall, and my hope is, I'm going to go ahead and say my prayer is that we don't stop. Because if we stop, if we give up, if we don't go until, we are going to already lose. Now, this might be what your life looks like. Now, me being here in South Florida, in Fort Lauderdale, oftentimes I like to stand on the beach and look out over the ocean, towards the ocean. So if that's the case, guess what? I don't see all of these storms coming behind me. I don't see NAR settlement changes coming. I don't see the threat of buyer agency and brokerage going away, or I'm not aware of the compensation challenges that we might have. I might just see blue skies. So really quickly, we're going to look at these 7 challenges that we have. And so here's what I want to encourage you all with. These 7 challenges, there are going to be positives on the other side of every one of these challenges. So as I share this, I don't want you to think, I thought we were coming here to be inspired, to be encouraged just a little bit. But the reason I want to share these 7 with us is that once we know what to expect, expectation shapes energy. Expectation shapes the reality, just like the perception, okay? So as we go through, you might want to write these down just a little bit. The first one, it's hard and it gets harder. Yep, I said it right. You heard it right. This thing that we do is hard, and it is going to get harder. Do you believe me? If not, look at where our business was 2 years ago. Look at where our business was 2 months ago, and look at where we are now. Is it hard? Yes, it is. Is it getting harder? Yes, it is. But this is why this is why we are in a position not to only survive, but if we will persevere and go until, you are set up, you are positioned to thrive in this industry. It's hard and it gets harder. What does that mean? As Les Brown always says, he says that when life is hard, do it hard. So it's going to require you and I to do this thing called life hard. Is it going to be challenging? Absolutely, right? But we have to have that resolute decision, that resolve that says it's going to get harder. Now, I'm not telling you it's getting harder to scare you. I just want you to be prepared. If I came and said, hey, you know what? This thing is going to get easier. We're going to have people lining up, throwing money at you, and the exact opposite happened, how would we feel? We would be deflated. We would be demoralized, and we would likely give up sooner than we would without knowing what the true expectation is. Number 2, the second obstacle or hurdle that we have to accept and overcome is that nobody is coming to save us. Right? We are the help. We are SEAL Team 6. There are no saviors coming to say, hey, you know what? I know you didn't hit your numbers. I know that you're on a commission lifestyle and compensation. I know that bills are due. And so the reason I say this is because ultimately, at the end of the day, you and I, we have to decide, are we okay being the owners of our businesses and our lives? If not, I will tell you, this thing that we're in is not for everyone, and that's okay. Who it is for those who understand that being great does have its challenges. It's also for those individuals who say, help is not on the way. I have to do this myself. Now, that does not mean that we don't go and seek assistance. We're going to talk about getting support here in a moment. But ultimately, the buck stops with you. And are you okay with that? If you are, then we can move to number 3. The third obstacle, while we talk about perseverance and setting this realistic perception of until, is that there are no big wins. The fast, easy money in real estate, it's rare. It might even be a unicorn. And so what does that mean to us? Neil, so far you've told me that it's hard and it's getting harder, that no one's coming to save me, and that there are no big wins. You're not very inspiring or motivating right now. But here's why I want to remind us that there are no big wins. That means that ultimately we don't have to hit a home run. Maybe today you're thinking, I just need to find that one client, get that one listing. I have to have everything lined up perfectly so I can have this monumental deal or year. What if you only focused on incremental changes, incremental wins and successes? And here's what an incremental win is. First, we talked about, do you know what your purpose is? In real estate, I want to ask you, do you know your numbers? Do you know the number of contacts that you need to make each day? The number of appointments that you need to set? The number of agreements, whether they are buyer agreements or marketing agreements for listings? Do you know those numbers? If not, that's that incremental success, that incremental step that's going to get us to until. So I don't stop making calls until I have my number of dials and I have my number of contacts. I don't stop my week, my work week isn't over until I've set my correct number of appointments. My week isn't over until I have my number of agreements signed, marketing or buyer agreements. My month is not over until I close the right number of deals. So this idea of until and these small incremental steps, we want to make sure that alleviates the pressure of us thinking that we have to go after these big wins. So after we know that there are no big wins, number 4 is going to be encouraging and challenging. And so here's what we as realtors are really good at. We're really good at doing the work. If you're here today, I don't doubt that you are great at being a real estate agent. But here's where our hurdle is. To do the work, you have to win the work. That means that we have to sell ourselves. We have to make sure first that we believe we are good enough and deserving of the business. The second way to win the work is we have to sell our services to someone who's willing to pay. And after August 17th, we're going to find out how good we really are at winning the work. So many of you are fantastic at the showing process, at marketing and listing homes, at negotiating. The challenge is we are not skilled at winning the work. When was the last time you practiced winning the work? Not on the real estate transaction itself, but when have you sat down and maybe in this format here, you turned on Zoom and you recorded yourself doing a marketing consultation or a buyer's consultation? Did you go over and work on your compensation dialogue? Why? Because our confidence in winning the work is going to be what allows us to actually do the work. So don't focus so much on the real estate skills themselves, but those who persevere, those who are super successful, they get really good at winning the work. And so I just want to remind you, as we continue on, focus on winning the work just as much as you do on doing the work itself. And then number 5 of the 7 is that nothing works. And here's what I mean by nothing works in real estate. We're seeing this now. Nothing works forever. Everything, every system, every process is going to break down at some point. We are seeing right now the way that business used to operate, we're seeing it break down. So what do we have to do as business owners? We have to accept the hurdle that nothing works forever. We have to go in and innovate and get creative. It's not just about loving real estate anymore. It's not just about being a people person. We have to say, I have to innovate. Maybe I need to start leveraging AI. Maybe I need to leverage some of the tools that Greater Tampa Realtors makes available to me. Maybe it's time for me to partner up with someone outside of my marketplace so that I can innovate and so that I, as a business owner, can get creative. Because this is what we are seeing. We're seeing that those who are still operating on last year's, on 5 years, on 10 years ago systems and processes, those are the individuals, those are our colleagues, peers, and friends that are going to be left behind in the industry. And then number 6 is that we do not get paid, we do not get rewarded for our passion, time, or effort, right? And so as we continue to think about until, simply because you love real estate, it does not mean that you are going to be rewarded for it. People do not care about your passions. Now, we're told that we need to find our love and to do something that we're passionate about. But if you only operate off of your passions and expect to be rewarded for it, then we are mistaken. But why is that the case? It's the case because our clients, customers, and prospects don't care about our passion. They don't care about our time, our energy, or our effort. What they care about is the results that we return to them. And so let me ask you all this. As we think about going until and persevering and turning this art into a skill, how good are you at getting results for your customer or client? Now, this is not a judgment deal. Let's look at our conversion ratios. Are you getting your clients through the entire process or your customers through the entire process and having them close deals? If not, I would encourage you to do a business audit. See where there might be some lag or fallout in your business. Is it going to be from the initial conversation to the appointment to having an agreement signed, agreement to going under contract, or is something happening during the contract process itself? So we want to make sure that we accept the fact that we look at this challenge and this hurdle that people do not care about what we're passionate about. They only care about results. And so if you aren't getting the results that you want, it's likely because we aren't allowing or assisting others to experience the results that they want. And then finally, we are now unemployable. You're either unemployed or you are unemployable as an entrepreneur. What does that mean? The harsh reality is that if you are not working with buyers or sellers, landlords, tenants right now, we are unemployed. The other side of that is if we are working with clients, customers, if we have prospects right now, at the snap of a finger, we are unemployable, which means that ultimately, regardless of the marketing agreements or buyer agreements that we have in place, if we aren't careful, if we aren't intentional about delivering excellence in a predictable fashion, then we are going to be unemployed. So I know that those 7 where you're saying, Neil, where was the encouragement? The encouragement is in painting the picture and knowing what obstacles and challenges we're going to be facing as we move forward. So when we look at this screen right here, no longer should we be worried or concerned about the storms that are behind us. But Neil, we're in Florida. What about hurricanes? And I'm not talking about physical or actual natural hurricanes. I'm talking about those things in life that catch us off guard, that maybe have the possibility of doing the most damage, maybe wiping away a lifetime's worth of work. And so I want to ask you, have you considered what we call worst possible outcome? Worst possible outcome thinking. What's the worst possible outcome if A or B happens? And so when I think about my life, my business, when I learned from Brian Tracy, Brian Tracy talks about worst possible outcome. And so when he talks about worst possible outcome, I would often think, When I go on this marketing consultation, what's the worst possible outcome? They say no. Okay. Can I deal with that? Yes, I can. When I'm having a conversation with my 16-year-old son and we're talking about certain things, what's the worst possible outcome? If we can be okay with the worst possible outcome and then expect the best. And not only expect the best, but start planning for the best. So many of our colleagues, so maybe we're in this group as well, where we ignore the worst possible outcome and then we're devastated when our optimum outcome isn't achieved. So as we think about maybe these hurricanes, let's start planning. And so when we talk about perseverance and hurricanes, do you have your hurricane preparedness kit right now? Part of that in real estate, have you gone through and created your budget? Have you pulled back on all of those unnecessary services or products that you're using right now? Are you holding your products and services responsible and accountable to earn 2 or 3 times what you spend on them? If not, I'm not telling you how to run your business, but you might need to start saying, we've got a hurricane on the horizon. I need to go and get the plywood. I need to make sure that we have the water. What does that look like? My budget has to be tight right now. I need to do different lead generation methods to make sure I get the same number of leads, because possibly my conversion ratios aren't going to be as high. Now, this is what all of us today are going after. We are looking for the money to rain down from the skies, to come down from the heavens. And so I want to ask you, do you even think that this is possible in your life and in your business? Do you foresee a future? Do you see a tomorrow where you are experiencing everything that you want to experience? Because here's what I have learned firsthand experience, as well as with many of my clients. I've realized that if I or they don't believe this is possible, then it's never going to happen. If I don't see opportunities and abundance ahead for me, then all of a sudden I start seeing and finding everything I'm looking for, and that's typically not much. I start seeing lack. Why? Because I'm looking for lack. I'm looking for frustration. I'm looking for troubles and issues. And then all of a sudden, that perception becomes our reality. So here's my challenge to you today on this Tuesday. What's the one thing that you can do? What's the one thing that you have negatively believed in that you need to eradicate today? That you need to say, I no longer believe that is my truth. I don't believe that my buyers aren't going to qualify for financing. I don't believe that my health is never going to turn around, or the relationships are never going to improve. Because if we believe that there is an opportunity for prosperity, if we believe there is an opportunity for things to turn around, then we are going to position ourselves to combat this right here. Now, I don't know each of you on here personally, but I do know myself. And the reason I say that is, if you look on the screen right now, I'm willing to bet that you have said some things to yourself that you would never say to your worst enemy. We are the only ones who are with us 100% of the time. We are the only ones that know every thought that's in our mind. And ultimately, we know everything that we've done, that we've thought. We know where all of the bodies are buried. We know how many skeletons are in our closet. And if we aren't careful, this is all of the conversations. This is everything that we hear. So if you look on the screen and if you see any of these words, let me ask you, when was the last time that you actually put a positive word, or you said something good about yourself to yourself? Now, I'm talking about internally, yes. But when was the last time you actually said something positive to yourself about yourself out loud? Do you have affirmations? And I know some of this is all about, well, we might hear, well, that's just positive self-talk. Yes, it is. And it is important. So really quickly, we're going to look at some of the processes, some of the things that we're going to use, that we're going to leverage to overcome what we're seeing here on the screen. So even if these might be your reality today, are you angry? Do you have, or do you feel like a failure? Are you dealing with sadness? Are you upset with the industry, or maybe with things the way that your clients or customers have done? Could you just be frustrated that you're not seeing the results that you know and believe you should be having? The answer is absolutely. But you and I, have to take ultimate accountability and realize that there is no help on the way, that we've got to start the work itself and do something to turn this thing around. So many of us have these names for ourselves. We call ourselves stressed. We call ourselves full of grief. Maybe we're panicked at the state of the market right now. Maybe we don't know what to expect in our health, relationship, finances. Maybe we don't even know if we're going to keep our license after the next renewal. Right? So we want to change these things. We want to change how we see ourselves, how we address ourselves. And so here's where we're going to dive into at this very moment. The first thing is having a routine. Many people say a ritual. And so I'm just curious, do any of you have rituals or routines that you go through on a daily basis, or at least during your work week? And so we're going to look at three pieces: our mind, body, and spirit. Our mind, body, and spirit, where we have seen rituals or routines, especially in the morning, that's going to help combat all of the negativity, and it's going to help us persevere, especially when times are hard. So the first one is going to be the body. So in the body, or with the body, what are the three things that your body needs to do in order to get into what we call flow state? To go from a negative sedentary stance, position, into actually moving and believing something is going to work. So first, with the body, what are the three things that need to happen? What are the rituals or routines that you need to have in the morning? For me, the very first thing that I must do in the morning is, with my body, I must stretch. So when I wake up in the morning, I have to get a very good stretch in. That has to happen, no questions asked. And it's only taking about 3 to 4 minutes. After that, I must have at least a glass of water. So oftentimes I'm waking up, I'm feeling dehydrated from my sleep, even if I've hydrated throughout the day before. So after I stretch, I make sure I get some water into my system. So this is not just for the class or the presentation today. And then the third thing, no matter whether it's raining or not, my body needs to get outside and to feel Mother Nature. So these are the three things that for me are going to help me fight everything else and help encourage me to persevere and get through the day. I wake up and stretch, make sure I drink some water, and then immediately I get outside. So typically I'm putting the coffee, the water on. I'm making sure that I'm stretching while that's going. I'm going to go ahead and drink my cup of water, and then I am going to step outside of my back door and just make sure that I get re-energized. So those are my three rituals or routines in the morning. Hopefully you have something that's going to let your body know today we're in for a fight. Today we are going to prepare to win this thing called life. We want to let our body know, yes, I'm going to take care of you, and I need you to aid me in accomplishing these big goals that we have. The next one is going to be your mind. How do you keep your mind focused, or how do you trigger your mind in the morning to say, I know there might have been some challenging things yesterday, but here's what we are going to do today. For me, mine are going to be, I listen to different types of classical music in the morning, Baroque style music, just to let me know that things are okay. For some of you, it might be affirmations. It might be part of your mental is going to be reading for a few minutes. But how do you tell your mind we're in this thing today? We do have a chance to succeed. So many of our colleagues and friends, the very first thing they do is they turn on the news or they're watching something negative. So we really want to insulate ourselves from that. Maybe your mind piece is going to be reading from one of these books, just a couple of pages or even a few sentences or paragraphs. So after we take care of our body, our mind, then it really goes to our spirit. And the spirit piece is not to be religious or anything like that, but the spirit piece, we start thinking, what are you grateful for? Who are you grateful for, and why are you grateful for these things? Who are you grateful for? What are you grateful for? And then why are you grateful for these things? So you all heard me when I got on. Anytime I get to see Tony, I'm just excited, right? Anytime I get to get on here and hang out with you all as colleagues, as peers, I get excited because I know that part of my spiritual is just showing gratitude, having the opportunity to do this thing called life together, right? That's also why I'm always grateful for the military and our first responders, because I know that this thing that we have here cannot and should not be taken for granted. So as we wrap up, not really wrap up, but as we move forward, think this. How do you get your body to say, yes, we're in this. My body is ready to go until we win? How can we take care of our mind and get focused and say, okay, mind, here's what we're looking for today. And then finally, that spirit piece, that gratitude piece, asking, who are we grateful for? What are we grateful for? And why are we grateful for those things? And so with mine, I just spent a week on a cruise with my mom, my wife, and my aunt. And I am grateful for my mom. And I'm also grateful that my mom lives in another state, right? Because mama always wants to be mama and always tell me what to do. But this is one of those areas where if we are intentional about setting up our routines, we are going to see results. And here's what we have learned about the uber successful, the super successful people, that maybe we think that they are special, that they are unique, that somehow they have manufactured a life where they have 28 hours in a day. They manufactured this way where they don't have any challenges or any headaches and heartaches. But the truth is, the most successful individuals in our industry and in life itself, they have routines in the morning that get them going. They make sure that they insulate themselves with people that we're going to look at here in a moment, and building support individuals and systems and processes that are going to allow them to persevere when the rest of the world, when the rest of the industry is identifying as maybe some of the things that we see on the screen. So first, how do we overcome obstacles? We mentioned what those obstacles were. I believe the first step we've already taken, realizing that there are going to be challenges. Making sure that we are aware that this thing that we are in, and I'm not talking about real estate, I'm talking about this thing called life. This thing called life is not for the faint of heart. It's not supposed to be easy. Here's where I'm going to ask you, do you have a support system? Do you have a support system maybe that's made up of individuals in different parts, different areas, or what we call circles of your life? Do you have a financial support system? Now, I'm not talking about a rich uncle that's going to give you money, but do you have an accountant? Do you have a financial advisor in your life? Do you have someone that can speak wisdom when it comes to budgeting and financing in your life? When it comes to your health and the support, do you have a health coach or a trainer? Do you have a friend or family member who's just like their thing is fitness, nutrition? When it comes to relationships, do you have someone that can support you in your relationships? That's going to encourage you. I know you're frustrated with your significant other, but go home. Do you have a supportive spouse or significant other that's going to say, I know the kids are getting on our nerves, but that's part of this thing. We can't just do what's easy. We have to do the right, difficult work. And then in our businesses, in real estate, do you have a support system to help you right now? I'm going to tell you all, I'm going to remind you all right now, part of your biggest support system is going to be the team at Greater Tampa Realtors, right? If you aren't leveraging the support that they are offering, can I just challenge you to maybe look and see how can you dive a little bit deeper? They're offering classes. They always have the helpline and support lines available. If you hear something in the industry and if you aren't seeing it, reach out to them. Maybe in their affiliate partner program, they have the one or two people or services that's keeping you away from experiencing success, especially in these trying times, right? So we want to build our support systems, and part of the support is going to be in our processes and systems. Do you know what processes and systems are antiquated in your business? Do you know what you need to adapt? I know we're hearing all about AI, right? We heard about Chat GPT. We're hearing about these clones like Synthesia or Delphi. But do you know where to go and get some assistance? Are you part of a mastermind group? Ladies and gentlemen, I want to encourage you all, especially now. I've been in the industry almost 20 years. I have found that especially in the challenging, trying times, the mastermind group is the most important support system in my life. When I can have groups of individuals, of business owners, entrepreneurs who might be experiencing the same thing as everyone else, but our outlook, our perception, our goal is different from everyone else. And I want to encourage you all with the word weirdo. You all who are here with us this morning, we're the weirdos. Our minds, our bodies always pull to the ditch. It always goes and senses danger, and then it wants to be afraid and fearful. By you being here, you have put your name tag on that says weirdo. Not in a bad way. It means that I am exceptional. It means that you are going to see the obstacles. You're going to know there's a mountain. And instead of stopping like our friend at that first hurdle, you're going to clear that hurdle. Even if you stumble, even if you fall, you're going to say, I believe that I can win today. I do think that possibilities, I do think that positivity, I believe that abundance and overflow are in my future. And if I just don't quit today, and if I have the right support, then great things are going to happen. And so here's where I'm going to ask you all a very important question today. And if the answer is no, I need us to turn this answer into a yes very quickly. Do you have a success partner? Do you have someone that every time things get challenging, you all are pulling each other up? Now, right here, you might think of yourself as this gentleman, where you are the one that's always asking for help. What I want you all to find is someone that is comfortable asking for help, but also someone who's comfortable reaching it down and helping you as well. So if you do not have a success partner, or this might be that mastermind group, without a success partner in 2024, 25, 26, it's going to be too easy to quit. When you're here and you find someone in one of your classes or a networking event, maybe you just vibe with someone, and it's very likely it's not going to be the same person in every area. One of my very best friends is fantastic when it comes to nutrition and health, but he is not fantastic when it comes to entrepreneurship and keeping me accountable, because he works a 9-to-5 job. All he knows is safety, security. So I'm having to speak to other individuals in that arena. When it comes to relationships, do you have a success partner that's going to be in the similar style of relationship either that you're in or that is where you aspire to be? I cannot listen to some of my friends who aren't married with children to be my success partner. And so we want to make sure that as we are building our support system, that we find those success partners who are going to bring us up. Now, this is something that Kobe Bryant said, and so I'm going to encourage you all to do what I have done here in this presentation type deal here. Find some really great quotes that are going to remind you not to give up, that it is going to be a challenge. Great things come from hard work and perseverance. No excuses. And so I want to encourage you with this right here, that I'm reminding you all of some individuals who went and who experienced greatness, who had tough times, and then who ultimately paved a path for us and remind us that success is possible. So here is the success formula in real estate, in life, with our finances, relationships, in our health, right? Get to work, keep working, don't stop. Now, we almost say it as a joke, But how many of us need to be reminded of this today? It doesn't mean that there aren't going to be challenges. And here's what I will tell you. This is a poor graphic in the reality. So your get to work, keep working is probably going to be jagged. It's going to look more like hills, valleys, mountains, more valleys. You're probably going to have to turn around and go backwards. But if you don't stop, we know that success is going to be inevitable. So ultimately, the one who wins is not the smartest or fastest. It's just simply the person that doesn't give up. And it might sound like a cliche, ladies and gents, but I do want to remind you is that this stuff, these success principles, roadmap, guidelines, they have become cliches simply because they are true. So let me ask you, on this version of this success map, this process, where are you? Are you hoping for success, but you've never gotten to work? Are you just sitting here and waiting for the perfect time and the opportunity and for luck to find you? And you're saying, well, as soon as August 18th comes, then I'll get to work. As soon as the kids get back into school, then I'll get to work. Or have you gotten to work, but then you were like, I just got tired. Yeah, it's not easy. And then you stopped. Maybe you have started this thing and you were doing it and then you kept doing it, but then you stopped. Because once the settlement came down, or maybe you got a bad report with your accountant or, tax time, and you're like, yeah, this is not it for me. Maybe now that it's renewal season with the associations, what are we doing? I don't know if I'm going to keep doing it. But I will tell you, we're looking at numbers, ladies and gents. We are seeing that agents are falling out of the industry. There are going to be challenges, yes, but there are going to be more opportunities. There's going to be market share that opens up. And if we don't stop, we will be able to achieve success. Now, this right here, especially for my ladies, this might be as real as it gets, right? And so I don't know if you all can see on the screen here, but what starts out as a tree trunk, this turns into a rope that has started to splinter, right? That started to shear just a little bit. And so I want to encourage you all. I know this is a reality. I know this might seem like you're not going to get through it, but this is where we want to say what? Just keep working, don't stop, and once you get through these storms, there is going to be success. And how do I know that? I know that because there were storms in the 60s, there were storms in the 80s. In my life, there were storms in 2009 and 10. Right, 2013, I flatlined. I had to be resuscitated. And now in 2024, we're seeing another professional storm. But if we keep going, maybe some of us are saying, Neil, at least she has an umbrella. I don't even think I have an umbrella. I'm barefoot out here trying to fight this thing. Get yourselves a support system where someone might not have an umbrella, but someone might throw you a poncho. Okay? Perseverance is the secret of all triumphs. And then here's where I really want to encourage us today. That I'm sure that many of you are facing a wall right now. Many of you are saying, I don't know what's on the other side of this thing. But then I want to encourage us by saying that if we will do the right things, if we will do the hard work, especially right now when so many of those around us are falling off, I believe I have experienced, and I hope that you have experienced this as well in your past. I believe that there are bigger, brighter, better things on the other side of the wall. Maybe it's one more swing. We hear all the time about the story of the acres of diamonds. One more swing, right? One more dig, one more consultation. Maybe you're one contract or one relationship away from meeting that client, that customer. Maybe you're one networking event away from getting in the right place. The only challenge is that we never know until. Here's what Steve Jobs talks about. And so this is where our challenge is today. Our challenge is that when we look on the internet, when we look at social media, we see so many young people, we see so many people who have just started this thing and they're broadcasting overnight success. And it looks as if they came from nowhere, did nothing, and received everything. Well, one of the greatest visionaries of our lifetime, Steve Jobs, says, if you look really closely, most overnight success took a long time. Let me remind you on this Tuesday, you are where you are supposed to be at this time. Now, you might not agree with that, but I do believe there's something for us to learn in this time right here. You're here not by accident. There is something for us to take away from our time together so that we can be closer tomorrow. W. Clement Stone, one of the fathers of productivity, one of the fathers of success and abundant thinking. He came before Napoleon Hill. Definiteness of purpose is a starting point for all achievement. Let me ask you, do you have a definite purpose? This is how I started our time out today. Do you know what you're chasing after? Do you know why you're chasing after it? Have you made the decision that you will not stop, that there is no reality that exists where you do not achieve that thing that you are going after? Because unless you have a definiteness of purpose, it is going to be too easy. Once again, it's going to be too easy for you and I to give up. We're going to give in to the whispers or the murmurs of our inner mind, of that inner voice. We're going to see and hear our friends saying, it's not going to make a difference. Have one more bite. Have one more drink. Come hang out with us. Do you really need to skip this fun event to prospect or to network? Why don't you just come to the concert or to the game instead? But once we have that definiteness of purpose, it's going to make all of the difference. Now, really quickly, Jim Rohn says you're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. Now, we also know that this is in different areas. So socially, professionally, and then relationally. So let me ask you, as we talk about perseverance, are you in a friend group? Do you have 5 people that are helping you achieve your goals? When you look around, are you and your 5 friends, are you all moving in the same direction, or are you all moving in different directions? Are you all an open hand, or are you a fist? Because especially today, we are seeing that many of our friends are going in different directions. Many of our circles aren't circles at all. They're more like spokes on a bicycle tire, where they might have a center, but they're all going in different directions with no rim around them. So I want to encourage you, start doing a friend assessment, a connection and contact assessment in your life. Start asking yourself, if I were like the 5 people that I'm spending the most time with, would I be encouraged to keep going? If not, why are you spending time with them? This is the last slide that I have, but not the last thing we're going to look at. This is part of what we call the 3D system, like 3D, like 3-dimensional. But the 3D system, when it comes to until, if we want to persevere, there are 3 Ds that we must do. The first one is going to be delete. What or who in your life do you need to delete so that you can believe that success is possible? Is it going to be you need to delete Netflix for a season? Do you need to delete drinking? Do you need to delete socializing and hanging out so much? Maybe you need to delete something that you're taking in, the news. I don't know. But if we want to survive and thrive, if we want to persevere, there are going to be some things and people that we must delete. The next one is going to be delegate. When we talk about the support system and as we persevere and going until, after we delete, what are some things that you might be able to delegate? They might need to be done, but not necessarily by you. Can you think of maybe some busy work that is not what we call a DPI, dollar producing DPA, dollar producing activity, or an income producing activity. So if they aren't dollar producing or income producing, then maybe they could be delegated to a virtual assistant, so that then your mind, your body, and spirit during these hard, challenging times, we want to make sure that we're focused on our best days or our best activities that we're going to talk about here in a moment. And then after we delegate, the third D is actually two Ds, and that's double down. What are those activities that if right now, while everyone else is screaming, the sky is falling, and they're running around like Chicken Little, what if you double down on those key activities for you? The ones that are going to generate the greatest results, the ones that are going to move the needle the most and the fastest. What if you double down on your prospecting time? What if you double down on your negotiation skills? What if you actually double down on winning the business? Meaning that you got out there and you did those hard but necessary things, as opposed to doing the easy Facebook or social media marketing and post. Right? Now, I'm not saying they aren't necessary. I'm just saying there are some things that can be deleted, some things that should be delegated, and then ultimately we want to double down. Once we have a definiteness of purpose and we make a resolution, not a New Year's resolution, but just a resolution, make that resolute decision that we are going to go until we are going to see some great results on the other side of this. So here's where we now start looking at some practical pieces to doing this thing. How do we turn an art into a skill? How do we turn an art into a skill? So we're going to look at this idea of building the skill of perseverance. The first thing that we want to do is get a calendar, some type of calendar. I use Google Calendar. I also have an actual physical calendar right here next to my desk that you all see me looking over at, right? And so here's why we want to have some type of calendar. We want to start building our successful day, week, and month. So if we can build it, they will come. And by they, I mean the success. If we can see opportunities, if we can see abundance, if we can see prosperity or even possibilities, it's going to pull us through those tough and challenging days. Okay, one of the very first things I would love for you to do is on your calendar, we're going to call this our perseverance calendar, our until calendar. Let's start blocking out and building in some rest days. Many times we give up not because we don't believe it's possible. Have you ever just given up or stopped because you were tired? Right? Because in this thing called life, we're going from being mom, husband, friend, business owner, volunteer, and it just doesn't stop. And at the end of the day, what happens? I'm done. I quit. I mean, yes, I believe that there was a breakthrough on the other side, but I'm just tired. So on your perseverance calendar, on your until calendar, let's start building in some of those rest days. A rest day, and here's what a rest day is, ladies and gentlemen. A rest day goes from midnight to midnight, and there's no work involved. I know what you're going to say. You're going to say, Neil, a full day with no work, I do not believe that that is possible. That can never happen. Well, here's what I'm going to tell you. People who are more successful than you and I, people who have accomplished greater results than we are currently producing and experiencing, they have rest days. They have 2 to 3 rest days a week. In a month, they might have a full week of rest. So let me challenge you to put rest days, recharge, replenish days on your calendar. This is what's going to help us persevere when mentally, psychologically, physically, we just aren't drained. Can I challenge you, or can I say, I believe that each and every one of you are givers. I believe that if you're here with us this morning, that you probably pour out more than you're poured into. The challenge is that at the end of the day, end of the week, you have nothing else to give. You don't have anything else, so you're pouring from an empty vessel. So I want us, the first thing is to start building in some of those rest days from a midnight to midnight where there's no work involved. I would just challenge you to get one rest day in over the next 2 weeks. Let's start with one. Remember, it's not a big win. We just need incremental advancement so that we can persevere until. So this is how we're turning that art into a skill. Let's build a rest day into our calendar. Ideally, we want at least one rest day every week. Right now, let's just get ready for one rest day in the next 2 weeks. Then we want to have what we call prep days. So a rest day and then a prep day. A prep day is when we go in and we start building, doing the behind the scenes work, all of the admin things that's going to help us on our last day. So our last day is what we call our best. So we have rest, prep, best. Rest, prep, best. Rest day, midnight to midnight, we aren't doing any work. Prep day, we're preparing. And then our best day is when we are making our dent in the universe. That's when we're going to be making our money. So let me tell you, here's what the definition of a best day is. A best day is where you spend at least 80% of your time operating in your core genius or primary area of expertise, interacting with people or processes that give you the highest payoff for the time you invest. So for me, today, this is one of my best days. So I'm with you all this morning, and I'm going to do another class this afternoon. Yesterday was my prep day so that I could prepare for today. And then Sunday was one of my rest days. So you see how we have rest, prep, and then best. Now that does not mean that you have to go rest, prep, best, rest. So my rest was Sunday. My prep was Monday. On Monday, I prepared for today. I prepared for tomorrow and Wednesday. And then Thursday. So today, tomorrow, and Thursday. Then I will have another rest on Friday. And so as we go through here, how can you start building your rest days, your prep days, and your best days? And the way we win, the way that we are led and pulled into persevering is by having more best days than prep days. Having more best days than rest days. Because once we start seeing victories and we start building on the momentum, we are going to see that ultimately we are encouraged and it's going to be easier for us to get through those troughs in our life, those valleys where we look around and it seems like everything is going wrong. Once we have that system in place to build our until calendar with rest, prep, and best, we're going to find that we have a support system in place. Our accountability or success partners, the masterminds, we're going to have those that routine in the morning for the body, for the mind, and for the spirit. And then we'll know how, with the resources such as the Immigrant Edge or the Entrepreneur Roller Coaster of how we're going to proceed. So here's what I want to tell you all. That is all that we have for the formal presentation piece here. Okay, I do want to pause for a moment and open up any Q&A that you might have. So you can, if you have a question about best practices, anything when it comes to persevering, how to go until, you can drop that in the Q&A and I will read that anonymously. Okay, or you can put it in the chat directly to host and panelists. Any of that, because here's what Tony Javin, the education team, did. They are aware that right now a lot of us have things going on in here and things in here. Maybe we just needed to recharge a little bit. Maybe we needed just a little bit of encouragement. And so they were saying, Neil, we know that the industry is changing. We know that many of our friends are getting beat up. Our members are feeling the weight of this thing called life. And so while we didn't want to be here for a long time, I hope that with some of what was covered here this morning, where you're going to decide not to quit today. One of my mentors would often tell me, Neil, you can quit, just not today. And so then tomorrow would come, and I would talk to him, and I would say, hey, you know what? I think I'm ready to quit. He said, okay, you can quit, just not today. And so what I found out was that we can always quit tomorrow, but tomorrow never comes when we're living in the present, right? So I just want to say I thank you all. I thank you all for hanging out with us. Thank you for your attention. Not sure. Oh, let me see here. Just give me one moment. Okay, so I have a question. Any recommendations on organizational platforms and or a better, more efficient CRM? I am glad you asked the question. So yes, there's a CRM that I love. Now, okay, these are the opinions and views of Neil Oates Jr. These are not the opinions of Greater Tampa Realtors, so don't put any of this on the team, all right? So the one that I love is called Referral Maker. Have you all heard of Referral Maker before? It is from Buffini and Company. So Brian Buffini, he was a realtor for a long time. Now he has a business coaching company. But Referral Maker is the CRM that I swear by. I've been using it for about 10 years. It is one of the most, now this is for me as a broker and as an agent, okay? I just found that Referral Maker is telling me who I'm supposed to write notes to, who I'm supposed to call. It lets me know when I need to get out there in the field and meet certain people, which individuals I'm going to have coffee with. It allows me to see where all of my referral and business is coming from. It has the whole budgeting piece. And so Referral Maker for me is hands down. I've tried, in my almost 20 years, I've tried almost all of these CRMs. And I've just found Referral Maker to be one of the best ones out there. Any other questions, comments, or concerns? Thank you for asking that question. Any other questions, comments, or concerns? I am going to do this. I am going to put in the chat, because I know that oftentimes once we leave the class, we start having questions. That is my email address, Neil Oates, NEALOATES @gmail, Neil Oates @gmail. If you all have any questions, make sure you email me. I will tell you all the resources again: The Entrepreneur Roller Coaster by Darren Hardy, Brian Buffini, The Immigrant Edge, How to Make It Big in America. 2 fantastic resources. Also, Brian Buffini has a podcast. It's called The Good Life. So The Good Life. So part of my routine when I'm driving in the morning, I'm listening to The Good Life. It's a Good Life. It's a Good Life podcast. That's what it is. I don't know if you all are podcast listeners, but it's a Good Life podcast. I encourage everyone. They really do talk to entrepreneurs, business owners, everyone about how to live the good life. It's going to give some practical and some applicable steps that we can take, especially in 2024 as we move forward and as we're seeing different challenges, unique challenges that come against us and up into our lives. All right, anyone else? Anything else this morning? Going once? Going twice? Sold. So here's what I'm going to encourage you all to do. First, find out what your purpose is, why you're doing what you're doing. Without that, it's going to be way too easy for us to throw our hands up and quit at the first sign of trouble. The next most important piece after we know what our purpose is, can I encourage you all to find a success partner, find an accountability partner in different areas of your life. Someone who might know more than you, someone who cares for you, or someone who just wants to see you win. I believe that this thing called life is too challenging. This journey is too long and difficult for us to do it by ourselves and to do it right. So reach out to Tony and the team at Greater Tampa. Go to the networking events when you're in classes, especially the in-person classes. Make sure that you look for someone, that you try to connect with them and find a way to say, hey, here's what I'm chasing after. What are some of your dreams? What are your goals? Do you believe that success is possible? If they say yes, start building that relationship with them so ultimately you can find that success partner, because one is too small a number for greatness. Anyone, thank you so much. It was an absolute pleasure. Anyone else? Anything else before we kick it back to Tony? Oh, Tony, you got the floor, man. Thank you so much. Thank you as always for inviting me into you all's homes, right? I don't take it for granted. And I will say I start every presentation the same way with the U.S. Navy Tervis Tumbler. I'm going to end it the same way that I always do. And that is, if you are here with us if you're here with us on this spinning orb that we call Earth, that means that you still have a purpose, that your job is not done. There is still work for you to do. And I don't know if you've heard it this morning, this week, or not even this year, but I want to let you know that you are loved, that you are valuable. I want to tell you that I love you. And do me a huge favor that as we persevere, as we commit to going until, being a good parent, spouse, significant other, friend, until, encourage others by telling them that you love them, right? Let them know that they are valuable, that they are here for a purpose, and that if they ever need someone to reach down and pull them up, just offer your hand. Let them know that you are available. So I appreciate you all. That's all I have. Tony, you've got the floor, sir.